Hey, how's it going, guys? Hope you guys having a good day, good night. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with just an archer kind of in-game PVE type guide, going over the skills you kind of need. This is mostly for like stuff like Ackman, Hystria, Montrums, Gaifen, and things of that nature. It's actually really fucking simple. I already did one with like, you know, leveling PVE type stuff. So we're just gonna do this pretty quick, and it's gonna be really quick. The first skill points you're gonna need is only 895. So this is a very simple, the most simple type of skill rotation you can do. You're gonna go ahead and pretty much, I'll link these down below, but really you're only gonna want your heal because it's PVE, and that's the only one that's really gonna matter to make sure you keep your HP and your MP up. And for those of you guys really quick who have been asking me, I'm just gonna go ahead and say exactly how this works now again. Breath of Spirit, just think of it as a bomb. The actual skill Breath of Spirit essentially activates or pretty much equips the bomb, right? You put the skill in the hotbar, you press it, and you press which directional key you want. Left is going to give you the recovery, which is your heal. Down is going to give you your stun, and to the right is going to give you your debuff. This skill right here, Exhale, that's essentially the skill that you use to throw the bomb. So you pretty much just press E. And these three right here, these breath recover, stun, and breath deceleration, those are just extra bonuses on top of the specific type of bomb you throw. So the recover is obviously for your healing bomb. The stun obviously is for the stun bomb, and deceleration is the extra stats you're gonna get for your debuff bomb. So that's how that works. It's very straightforward. If you have effects on, you can actually see the glove glow with the different color. So let's go ahead and go back down. So this, again, is the 895 skill points for the end game. You don't really need Absolute Piercing Cry because that's a stiffness. That's more for PvP. We'll have that in a different video. And let's go ahead and keep going. You want Ensnare. So everything else down here is just level 1 up until you get Ensnare. Ensnare is the one you're going to want leveled up because it gives you 30% crit rate. Has a debuff. It's not as big of a thing, but the super armor and the crit rate is why you want it. As you see, when you level it up, it gives you more crit rate. You also want Meteor Dive. This one is kind of optional. I personally like to use it. I like to level it up, not just because it has super armor and allows me to reposition myself if I want to, like, you know, kind of try to group the mobs better, but it also allows me, with its leveled up at Absolute, it also gives me, as you guys can see, it has 100% crit rate. I believe it has that the entire time. But just getting it to Absolute will just give you more damage. The other reason why I like to use it is also for the MP recovery. So I figured, you know, might as well just keep it Absolute, give you more damage while you're repositioning yourself and getting some extra resource recovery and super armor. So the next one is Wing Strike. After Wing Strike, for this bare minimum guide, you really don't need anything else aside from your passives. The Wing Strike, I'd always recommend to level it up because it's going to be an easy filler as you're going to the next pack of mobs. You're just going to be able to constantly hit them with that as you're going to the next pack of mobs. Obviously, you got to be careful with your stamina, but I believe it's manageable. And yeah, so that's why I have it Absolute, to increase the maximum damage that you're doing as you're getting to the next pack. On top of that, it does give you 100% crit rate at Absolute. And like I said, nothing else besides the passives. As you go on to your Awakening, you're pretty much going to want almost everything in your Awakening. Up until you don't need Piercing Light. Piercing Light, just a long animation, is not really 100% needed. It is nice to have, but it's one of those skills that aren't absolutely needed. But of course, if you get it, it's nice extra damage. You're going to want Radiant Explosion, Spear of Sylvia, Full Bloom, Uproot, Loot Dragons, Flow Light Trail, and Righteous Might, of course. I personally would recommend getting Low Sweep as well. You can put it on your hotbar. You can use that when other skills are on cooldown to quickly swap from Unawakening to Awakening. You can also use it to quickly go from Low Sweep into Loot Dragon's Call if you need an extra CC that can bound or knock them down, because Low Sweep is a bound, so it'll put them on the ground to get the extra down attack damage. And then of course Glissade. I would always recommend Glissade because it's probably the easiest one for the attack speed buff. You can also just quickly use that first part of Glissade for an extra dash that doesn't cost stamina. So yeah, and it's also got a knockdown on the third hit if you actually use it up to the third hit. I normally never really do. I normally just use it for the movement and the attack speed buff. So the typical combo that I use and a lot of the higher end archers in the higher end PVE areas typically use is Ensnare, which will give you your 30% crit buff as well as pull them closer to you, into Spear of Sylvia, which will then give you give them a 9% evasion debuff, as well as do a bunch of damage to them, and in PvE it can bound them and do a down attack on them. And after in Spear of Sylvia, you'll pop your Uproot into Loot Dragons, which will again, Uproot can potentially float them, and it just also has a nice decent chunk of damage into Loot Dragon's Call, which is also a down attack if they're still on the ground. After that, they'll make sure they're right next to the mob and use Full Bloom, because we all know by now Full Bloom has a crazy big amount of damage to it if you're right next to the opponent. And after that, if they're not dead, they'll pop their Radiant Explosion for the minus 15 DP debuff. I like to use Light's Trail into Righteous Smite after that. Some people just go straight from Radiant Explosion into Light's Trail and then they repeat the combo. I like to add Righteous Smite and then I repeat the combo, but that's totally up to you if you want to do it that way or not. And that's pretty much the combo. Okay, so we'll go into the next skill build. This skill build is a little bit more skill points, it's 1139, but it has a little bit extra to it. So as you can see, I added an extra. I got Flow Verdure Clout 2, and I also got Absolute Earth Shatter. The reason for that is pretty simple. The level 57 skill, Radiant Ensnare, I like to use sometimes just as an extra filler. But if you have Absolute Earth Shatter as well, you can proc air attacks, because you can actually cancel the startup animation of Earth Shatter after you pop Radiant Ensnare. So what I typically do with this is I'll use Ensnare, Spear of Sylvia, Uproot into Loot Dragon's Call, that typical combo. I'll do Radiant Explosion. And if I don't really want to waste time with Light's Trail, just to kind of change it up a bit, I'll pop my Ensnare, but sometimes my Spear of Sylvia is still like a few seconds still left before it goes back to usable. So then I'll pop my Radiant Ensnare into Earth Shatter, just for some extra quick damage into Spear of Sylvia, and repeated the combo from Spear of Sylvia to Uproot, Loot Dragon's Call, Full Bloom. You know, just something extra. You don't really have to do it, but it's just nice to kind of do something a little different, because I do know that, you know, when you're doing the same combo 24/7, you know, 5 hours a day in the high-end crime spots, you can get kind of bored. So it's just a little extra shit you can do. Obviously, works really well with mobs that you can float, so things like Achman and stuff like that. And this skill here, this skill build here, this is with 1600 skill points. It's a little bit extra. This is just if you want to just do more, do different types of things. You know, I added Covering Fire, just for the quick down attack into Earth Shatter. If you really wanted to, it's not really needed. I also added Absolute Wrath of Nature. This skill, it's nice to just do some quick damage as before you get to the next pack of mobs. It also gives you 12 ranged AP, which, you know, it could be useful. And I also added, you know, Bolt of Radiance and Arrow Explosion. Again, it's just quick extra damage you can do to the next pack of mobs before you get there. And I also added the Tactical Strike and Ravenous Talon. I never really use these. I never really use Ravenous Talon, but some people like to use it, I've noticed, in their PvE grind. Tactical Strike is nice to have just for the extra iframe against mobs that can CC you. So you can kind of have an extra skill in your utility to get out of to prevent yourself from getting CC'd. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will have 15 minutes of Achman, Monchems, and Solo Gyfin for you guys to watch as well, but those will be coming in different videos, just so that this one video isn't extremely long. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.